So the two systems of measurement that we're going to be working with here are the US and the metric system. The quantities that we're actually going to be working with is the length, mass, and time. So in the United States here, what is the smallest unit of length that you actually are used to working with? You might be saying to yourself, inches, or the inch. And the abbreviation for inches is IN. What's bigger than an inch? I'll give you a clue. What's 12 times bigger than an inch? Maybe you're actually saying to yourself, hey, the foot, or feet. Let's use the plural here, saying that it's feet. And the abbreviation for feet is what? Maybe you're saying to yourself, FT. And what's bigger than a foot? I'm going to give you a little clue here. It's 3 times bigger than foot. It's what players use on the football field. Maybe you're saying to yourself, it's the yard. And a lot of my students, they would actually say maybe the abbreviation for yard is YRD or something like that, but I believe it's actually just YD. And I don't think that's actually very commonly used, so I wouldn't worry about that one too much. And what's a lot bigger than a foot in a yard? So by a lot bigger, I mean a significantly a lot bigger. Like, how would you go about measuring the distance from, let's say, California to Florida? Oh, okay, well, maybe you're saying to yourself, it's miles. And what's the abbreviation for miles? MI. Alright, so now, what about over in like Europe or so, or actually really for the most part throughout the rest of the world? What are the units of measurement that they use for length? Maybe you're saying to yourself, they use meters, and the abbreviation there is M. So the one thing that I really do want to point out and that I really want you to actually focus on is the idea that looking at the abbreviations here, which we'll be using a lot, MI is miles and M is meters. Do not get these two confused. I see this actually happen a lot, and just keep that in mind that miles is MI and meters is M. Okay, well, let's think about this here. How many inches are there in a foot? You might be saying to yourself that 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. All right, and how many feet are there in a yard? Well, there are 3 feet in 1 yard. Oh, what about this? How many feet are there in a mile? Let me just tell you this. I bet you 99% of adults don't even know this, as it's really not used in everyday kind of situations, so it's very acceptable. I get it. But there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. How many feet are there in a meter? Well, there are 3.28 feet in 1 meter. What I'm actually just doing right now by writing these equations out is we're going to be using these to convert units. These are going to be used for our unit conversions. All right, and let's move down to the quantity of mass. So when we're working with mass, this is going to be a little bit confusing. In the United States, let's just actually say that the mass that we're going to be using for now, we're going to correct this, and we're going to correct this later on, but for now, let's just say that the mass units are measured in pounds. I know that this is actually a weight, which is different than mass, but for these unit conversions and everything, I think it's acceptable to actually just say that as of right now, we're going to be using pounds. And what's the abbreviation for pounds? LBS. You might actually also see it written as LBPS. And that's Latin for libro pondos, so that's where that actually comes from. And now, what about the mass for in the entire rest of the world that uses the metric system? Well, the metric system actually uses what's called the gram. And if you're thinking to yourself, hey, you know what, maybe you thought, oh, kilogram. Well, the kilogram actually is just a further description of what the gram is. It's just a prefix that you're adding on there. So the main root word there is actually the gram, and the abbreviation for gram is just a lowercase g. We can actually just go back into kilograms and saying that, hey, you know what, just the fact that we're going to be saying here is that 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. Okay, so this is going to be the fact that we're going to be using in physics, being that we're going to be dealing with physical objects. I feel like that's going to be a lot simpler for us to actually be measuring things in kilograms rather in grams. Okay, so next up, what is the smallest unit of time that you can actually think of? Maybe you're saying to yourself the second or seconds. And the abbreviation for this is either S or SEC. For the most part in this course, what I'm actually going to do is just use SEC because it just explicitly defines it a lot clearer, a lot better. What's the next bigger thing than the second? We'll have our minutes, and that's MIN. And what's bigger than a minute? Hopefully you're saying to yourself the hour, which is just HR. And what's bigger than hour? Maybe you're saying to yourself the day, which I believe the abbreviation for day is just simply day. I don't think that there is actually an abbreviation for that. And then maybe you're saying to yourself, hey, what's bigger than a day is a week, and then you actually have a month. I'm not going to include those for the units that we're going to be dealing with right now, mainly because, hey, you know what? How many days are there in a month? You'll have 28 days in a month, you have 30 days in a month, you have 31 days in a month. So I'm not actually just going to use that. Let's actually just go up from there, and we actually have the year. Abbreviation for year is just YR. Okay, so this is going to be fun and simple for us right now. How many seconds are there in a minute? We have 60 seconds is equal to 1 minute. And then we have how many minutes are there in an hour? We have 60 minutes is equal to 1 hour. And how many hours are there in a day? And how many days are there in a year? Ooh, do you know this one? All right, so there's 365.25 days in 1 year. And you know what? So there's a lot of my students that are like, oh, that sounds made up. I don't understand why there's 365.25 days in a 1 year. And that's actually a very specific and very accurate measurement right there. And once again, you might be saying to yourself, okay, so what does that mean? And this is just a nice little additional fun fact over here. But keep in mind, hey, you know what? If we do have our sun over here and we have our planets that actually orbit around the sun, keeping in mind, hey, you know what? You have the planet Earth over here. It takes 1 year to actually orbit around and get back to where the original position was. And that's the definition of a year.